What's going on, everyone? Today is day 13 of the Nystatin antifungal treatment. Things are going really well. Better than I expected. I really have nothing new to say about the Nystatin other than, as I've mentioned probably 4 or 5 times, it tastes exactly the same. I.e., it doesn't get better like a fine wine that's been aged, or whiskey. Just want to talk about 3 things today, 3 quick things. I did notice that I started to take some frozen blueberries and some Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt apparently has good bacteria. And then some spring lettuce leaves, which I call them. And I would, just about a cup, that big or so, and blend them up and kick it back like a nice cold beer. And it seemed that if you cut out processed sugar, even fruit sugar will have a similar effect on your physiology, or at least it did on mine, where I felt pretty buzzed. And looks like I'll have to cut that back just a tad, not dive into the sugar berries too soon. But without processed foods and any sugar, you should definitely notice a difference if you try it, which is good. For my case, too much stimulation, i.e. maybe too much caffeine or too much sugar, throws my body out of whack. Also, I did want to mention that if you're trying to add more stuff to your regimen of changing your life through diet or trying an antifungal, definitely try meditation. And it doesn't have to be in a monastery or in a deprivation tank floating in water. It is simply, what I do is it's simply 20 minutes of just sitting with your eyes closed. I'll use it just as an example. Just like that. 20 minutes and just breathing. It doesn't have to be anything particularly special. There's nothing you need to do with your mind. You just sit for 20 minutes. It's extremely difficult. What's that? See, it's like, as soon as you hear some sort of computer indication that things are happening. That's why I put my phone into airplane mode, and I just time it for 20 minutes. And try to find a quiet place if you can, or do it however you want, whatever makes you comfortable. I tend to just sit on a couch and listen to traffic, and it works really well just for calming your system down. I keep doing it. I've done it for the last couple weeks, and I try to do it once a day, and just for mindfulness, to sort of get yourself away from your thoughts, even though your brain doesn't shut up. It's incessant. It's something you can practice. And that leads me to the 3rd thing, which is our mind-body connection. And what I thought you could try, just to explain this point, is to, in your mind, ask yourself a question. You just have to be anything. Do I like bananas? Now, what's going to happen is you're going to either answer yes or no, or maybe your mind will say something else. And the thing is, when you ask yourself in your head a question, something has to answer that, right? And you can ask yourself, well, what is answering that? Well, you'll probably say, well, I am. But then what is the thing hearing the question in your brain, It's just something I noticed a while back, and I've just always been tripped out by it. I'm not sure what it means. Although, the idea being that your mind, your brain, it is an organ, and it has a function. And that function is basically, well, obviously, the autonomous stuff to control breathing and all that stuff. But when it comes to consciousness, that seems to be its primary function, at least in terms of consciousness. So your brain likes to think thoughts, which is why we're sitting here and I'm talking and noises are coming out of my mouth. If you know English, you can translate it. If you didn't, you'd just hear particular noises and have to go off my body inflections to kind of understand what I'm saying or what I'm feeling. So the idea is your mind is full of thoughts. Now, what you can do to help yourself and to change things is you can change your mind, you can change your thoughts by trying to I guess, educate or retell yourself. Like with anxiety, this is a big thing where you start to get afraid of certain things. Agoraphobia is a good example where I started to get panic attacks like in a grocery store. So obviously every time I'm going to go to the grocery store, I get a little freaked out, get a little excited, gets heart beating a little bit like, am I going to pass out? Like, what's going on? So the idea in cognitive behavioral therapy is to retrain your thoughts. So as soon as you have this thought, I'm going to freak out, I'm going to pass out, you then actually write it down and then you counter that thought with a thought like, nope, I've been to the store 10 trillion times, I've gotten broccoli and crackers, everything's going to be fine. Never passed out, probably never will, unless it's like a physiologic thing. Anyway, that's how you can retrain a small snippet. Of course, you can look into it if you'd like. So that leads to behavior. If our behavior can help us, I think that's one of the ways you can get out of anxiety and depression, because we are what we do. We are not just what we think. And I think that's in lies the biggest problem with things like this, is I tend to believe, whatever my brain, the organ that likes to think and have thoughts and stuff, whatever it says is true, which is not the case. It simply says stuff, and there's a part of you that agrees with it, right? So back to that thought experiment, if you ask yourself a question, something has to agree with it. So if you say in your mind quietly, do I like bananas? A part of you's gonna be like, yeah, they taste pretty good. You can dice them up, you can make bread. They taste great on pancakes with syrup and powdered sugar. And so there's usually a thought, and then you have to kind of agree with it. And the idea is, with anxiety and agoraphobia, you have the thought, which is, I'm going to go in the store and I'm going to tear my arms off because I'm going to get sweaty, I'm going to get nervous, and so there's no way I'm going to the store. There's absolutely no way I'm going anywhere with people around. And that's sort of the spiral of agoraphobia as far as I understand it. So the idea is through behavior. Now the behavior is like meditation, calm yourself down. You have to do breathing. Some people like, there's this thing like tapping, where you tap on yourself. It's basically a way to pull yourself out of your brain, because a lot of the stuff your brain says, it's just simply not true. I would love for there to be aliens. I swear to God, they're listening to me right now. Yeah, we're ready to go? Can you suck me into the spaceship? No? So a lot of the things we think or believe, in fact, are just things that our brain is saying. Maybe we pick them up from our parents. Maybe we pick them up from TV shows. There's information flowing into your mind all the time. So the things that you believe are malleable. If you believe that anxiety is going to last forever, it's just not true. What's the evidence? So the idea is if you can modify your behavior, part of my modification is to eat healthier foods. I'm like, if the Snicker bar were to float by, I would just stare at it. I wouldn't grab it, I want to grab it. So I'm behaving in so much as I'm pushing processed foods and sugar away and hope that I'm changing my physiology, which so far has been true. So anyway, long story short, you can change a lot of your life and a lot of how you operate by your behavior. Part of my behavior is to meditate for 20 minutes, sacrificing that 20 minutes of yelling on Facebook to just sit and breathe. And I think as you start to trade the things that give you anxiety, like to me, a lot of it is just simply the news and all the bad stuff that the news outlets like to report, because it fires your animal brain into fear mode. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. And that was pretty fast and kind of all over the place. But I'm sort of putting it together that as I go to counseling next week, just the behavior of doing that will make me feel better. And that's the whole point of this, right? Is to keep experimenting, talk to experts if you can find one, modify your behavior, and tell your mind to shut the F up sometimes, because everything your mind says is just simply not true. So thanks, and we got one more day tomorrow, And I'll probably have a interesting space fact because I imagine I'm not going to feel any differently once I plunger the last little bit of licorice hand lotion juice into my mouth. So don't give up. Everything's going to be fine, and you got this.